All right, good afternoon. We are going to go over today the due diligence process. We're going to go A to Z on exactly what that looks like. Um, I know in residential, it's pretty much just a matter of getting a home inspector out there. Maybe you get a survey, an appraisal, and really that's stuff you guys aren't even doing as an agent. You might hire the inspector, right? But other than that, it's pretty simple. In commercial real estate, there's a lot more other items that come into play. So we're just going to dive into the whole checklist, and I'm going to give you guys if this it's a 25-day due diligence. This is the checklist I'll hand out if the PDF isn't or the slide deck isn't enough. It'll show you exactly what to do day one, each day, what you should be doing all the way through day 25. This one's relating more into mobile home communities. It's going to overall be relatively similar, whether it's apartment building, mobile home park, retail, industrial, office might be slightly different, but this was my most recent deal that I went through, and this is exactly the step-by-step I went through. And I'll also send you guys an example of the checklist from the seller that basically redlined a lot of stuff that they didn't have. So anyhow, I'm just going to get into it. Day one, and again, guys, just if you are new, due diligence starts, just to back up, assuming you don't know anything in real estate or this is your first deal or whatever. Due diligence is by definition, not sure if it's the exact definition, but due diligence is what it sounds like, right? You do your diligence, meaning you're finding out during a time period that you're going to negotiate during a contract, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 15 days. That's the time period that the seller will allow you, or if you're the seller, that you will allow for the prospective buyer to come in and do what they need to do to understand if it is the right property for you or them or your purchaser or client, whoever. A lot of it is financials, which we'll go into here. And a lot of that stuff, guys, the financials. But anyway, that's the definition. It's just the time period that you have allowed to check out the property, to make sure you want to spend the millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands, whatever it is on the property. So that's just the term. That's what this is. Okay, so you're under contract. Both parties signed. You agreed to a price and terms, and now you're getting into it. So here we are. So day one. Now again, just rewind real quick. Before I even get into due diligence, I make sure in the contract that before this period starts, that I request that the seller gives myself or purchaser the financials, right? Like a trailing 12 months of profit and loss, because before you spend $5,000 to jet the sewer lines or camera and go into hard cost, if the financials or numbers don't look good, you don't want to waste money, right? So that's always the first and foremost. So my clock doesn't typically start ticking until I receive those from the seller. That's just a little nugget. So day one, you're going to call the city hall and you're going to investigate, right? Are there any sunset provisions on the park? Okay. Now, again, these are terms you're more related to mobile home parks. There's always community rules. And this actually due diligence sheet, guys, I'll try to not stray too far from topics here, but this was actually written from my business partner who got a majority of this outlined from the number 5, he's in the top 5 of the largest privately owned mobile home communities. So this was something that he went through and put together. So it's coming from a phenomenal resource, of course. But okay, back to it. Day one, City Hall, sunset provisions. That's going to be in the community park rules. Any special assessments? If is there a community that there's fees that they're wanting to put in, collecting to put in a new park or recreation? Is the park a legal conforming park or grandfathered in? This is a huge little clause that you can find out if it's grandfathered in. That saves you a lot of headache with the city a lot of times. Call the property appraiser to see what your property tax increase to, or what your property taxes are going to increase with the purchase. That's something a lot of people overlook in their underwriting, and they don't realize. The property might have been purchased for $100,000 back in the 60s, and then now, 2021, you're looking at a $1 million purchase price. Well, guess what? It's going to change significantly. And if you don't underwrite and put those in your numbers, and you think the taxes are $1,200, and then it gets reassessed off the $1 million, it's going to go to $50,000 or something insane that might really crush your cash flow. So that's a huge item to look for that a lot of people overlook. Let's see here. Call the police department. See what they have to say about your property. Right? The police are the ones that are getting the calls. If you're in an area that I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but yeah, you might be in a rough area that you have no idea. You just think it's a good deal on paper, and you have no idea. Post a test ad on Facebook, Craigslist, MH Village. What is a test ad? Well, test ad is I'm putting a rental up. If you have 100 spaces at your park and there's 50 occupied, and you think that the reason this is a deal is because you can drop 50 more homes, well, guess what? You got to fill those homes, right? So if you run a test advertisement to see if there's any interest, that's how you'll be able to base that, right? Hey, Facebook, Craigslist, wherever, here's a rental. Are there one hit a week? Is there 10 that night? I mean, it'll just test the market. So that's another way. This was called Penny tomorrow at 8 a.m. to get a hold of this video. Okay. So this was actually our Penny was a dealer, mobile home dealer. So call the health department, call the manufactured housing association, see what it takes to get a dealer's license, call mobile home movers. You have to factor in all these expenses. Call mobile home dealers. So that's the first day. Now, day two, let's see. You need to find more about the trash service. You need to hire a plumber. See if they're separately metered. You're going to look at this sewer lines. That could be a huge, massive expense. Sewer lines, to get them scoped, jetted, you could run into hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's never fun to pay $2,000 to have it done, but if it saves you $20,000, $30,000 by doing it, then it's obviously worth it. Hire paving contractors. See what also when you're doing this, you're compiling quotes that I'm not saying you want to just come up with some insane number, but at the end of the day, if there's a lot of items that need to be done, that's a lot of ammunition that you can go to the seller at the end of the due diligence period and say, hey, look, I'm going to have to get the streets paved, water meters, XYZ, and you have quotes. So it's not like you're just saying, hey, I need $100,000 off the purchase price, right? Because now you have quotes that say, hey, I had 3 different quotes, right? And it costs this much. So it's a little more credible. Check for trees in the area. How much is that going to cost to remove if you need to remove them from roots going through your pipes. Okay, day 3 is your private utilities. You need to see permits. Find out how many homes are allowed, right? It's one thing for a seller to be like, oh, yeah, I'm allowed to have 200 sites here. And then the city said, nope, he was wrong. He lied to you. You can only have 75. Well, there goes your business plan, right? Call the well and private sewer system. With mobile home parks, there's a lot of different utilities. City utilities is obviously the cleanest, but sometimes you're going to have septic tanks. You're going to have lagoons, right? That could potentially be a nightmare. Package plants. Those are like a ticking time bomb, especially ones that have been made, in the 60s or due for significant maintenance. Check the well water, check the chlorinator. Hire a specialist to check every inch of the well, right? The permits, was it done right? Water reports, pressure testing. How's the pressure? All of this stuff can cost a lot of money if you're not ready, or if it's just a surprise, right? Day 4, check with all contractors that were hired. So follow back up with all the ones that are hired. The plumber, electrician, and pavers. Those are the main ones. Day 5. See, this is day 4. Oh. Oops. Okay. So I shuffled this around here. Day 4, we'll go to day 5. Here's day 5. So count and measure the lots. Okay, park-owned home inspections. If the park owns the home, make sure you check out those homes. If the tenants own their own home, there's not any maintenance there to be done. If there's homes in bad shape, you need to hop on the phone with the contractors, have them give you a quote, and then inspect the other structures of the park. Day 6, this is the final day before starting to spend hard money. Day 6, the permit for the park to an attorney to make sure everything checks out. So have your attorney go through it, have a plumber camera the lines. This is, again, where the hard money kicks in. Order a survey. Tell you if there's any encroachments. Contact a loan broker if you are taking out a loan, and place another ad in the paper, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist. Okay, day 7, at the end of the first week, drive the park at night. This will allow you to see who's living there, what's happening at night, is there any problems? All right, what kind of crowd are you working with? Day 8, you want to meet all the professionals that you hired, do the utility work. Assuming you have private utilities, this will either make or break the buying of the park, right? So the private utilities is probably, or arguably, the most expensive item that you could probably run into, right? Because the private utilities, again, if you have a wastewater treatment center, depending on how big it could be a $500,000 expense. Those things could cost more in the park sometimes. It's crazy. If you're dealing with a septic tank, it may not be as costly. City utilities, you just may need some new lines. So that is day 8. You should know all this by the first week. Day 9, talk with the plumber and see the results of the scope. Day 10, and guys, this is based on a 30-day due diligence period, which in commercial real estate, that's not too uncommon. Again, if you're residential, you're maybe used to a 10, 15-day inspection period, right? But this is a huge asset that takes a little more time. So, and I'm not saying sellers always give that to you. I mean, you never know. So day 10, you want to do another walkthrough of the park, own homes. Day 11, follow up with the loan broker if you're taking on a bank loan. See where they're at with the process and how they feel about the park, the financials, etc. Day 12, evaluate the test ad results. We typically like to see 4 to 6 hits a day. That means interest. Day 12 through 16, you should reassess the due diligence that you've already seen this far and revisit it with an attorney. Get his interpretation of the permit and the licenses. Day 17, evaluate current management. Are you going to keep them? Are you going to fire them? Why or why not? Day 18, check the title work. Bug the title company because they are usually slow. That's not always the case. Titles, I've worked with ones that are so on the ball, they're barking at the lender and they're going back and forth with you. So that's not always true. But, you know, they also got $1 million other deals and they aren't looking to purchase this. So they're not always motivated. Day 18, that was day 18. Day 19, check on the survey in phase 1 to see how everything's looking. The phase 1 is going to dictate whether you need a phase 2, which the phase 1 environmental is a report that shows were there any underground tanks, was there any chemical spills, right? Mobile home parks, if depending on the area, sometimes there's meth labs that have blown up. Like, what could that affect? These are these are real things that happen. Day 20, review the survey and match the survey to the legal description. Okay, let's go back to 20. Where was it? Here we go. So wrapping up the last 5 days, again, after you review the phase 1, you may need to order that phase 2 depending on the report. Day 22, this is when you need to have your lender have an idea of their terms, the term sheet you should have had well before then. Day 23, you want to recheck the permits with the city, complaints that have came in. The city should have done a formal inspection of the park at some point. Day 24, make a list of problems that you have seen. Are they able to be fixed? Should there be a price reduction? Right. So this is when you want to get all the contractors' quotes and have it ready for the seller if you're going to retrade or ask for a price reduction. Day 25 is when you have a meeting with the seller and discuss your problems and the price. So this sometimes is where the deal can blow, regardless, how bad seller wants to sell or how bad you want it, right? Nobody wants to have a price reduction, but again, if you're really doing your due diligence and you're getting solid, honest quotes from these contractors and you're not just making up some inflated number that they know you're just trying to get a price reduction, oftentimes they'll work with you, right? They're motivated, they want to sell. And if you've done your due diligence and shown them this, I don't have it in front of me, I'll send this to you guys to show you what we compiled during ours and what that looked like, and it really is impressive when you look at a due diligence checklist that somebody has taken the time to have a step-by-step process with all the contractors' names, with all of the quotes, right? So it makes a huge difference, and oftentimes it's the tipping point from the seller saying, nope, I'm going to the next buyer in line, or I'm putting it back on the market, or sure, you know what, you did your homework. I had no idea that there was that many issues, and we will do a price reduction. It actually happened, a real life story for myself on a community. We did this exact thing, everything through and through. And we came up with so many items unbeknownst to the seller, right? There was sewer line scope there, which he ended up fixing. He fixed a lot of the items because we didn't want to do a price reduction. We didn't want to be those guys making a name for ourselves. Like, oh, these guys get under contract. They come in at, the 11th hour and retrade or ask for a price. We didn't want to be those guys. But we just showed the seller and said, hey, we feel like we are paying top dollar. We're happy to. There's just all of these items that are making us a little uncomfortable. Well, he looked at it and he's like, wow, okay. They got local quotes. They had 3 different quotes. Some were high, some were low. And he fixed a majority of them. And he actually even offered to give a price reduction because he was holding the note and we were coming in with a lot of cash down payment. And he decided he would split the difference. We didn't even honestly ask. We just presented this information. So it can really help. And you guys can grab a copy of this due diligence list. Just go to www.jpcapitalsolutions.net/DD. That has your little checklist there. And that's really it, guys. You got private lenders. You got other items you need to have done if you want independent appraisals. There's more to it, but this is the thorough DD that'll get you an idea of whether you're moving forward with the property and that you're not going to overlook anything to lose any money. But I hope this was beneficial, and look forward to seeing you guys on the other training.